Hi everyone, welcome back from your Christmas break. I hope you had a wonderful time with your family. This is episode 4 of our series. Today we're going to talk about telling your family and friends that you have a brain tumour. It's not going to be a very nice episode, certainly not for me anyway. I really hope that this gives you some, maybe not advice as such, but at least some support to know that you're not on your own, that this is a difficult process for everybody that goes through it. So, I mean, if you haven't gone through it yet, if you're early enough in your journey that you haven't tackled that, then I understand the stress that you must be feeling right now. It's an absolutely terrible thing to have to think about and to know that you've got to do. And if you have been through it, well, you have my sympathies. This is never an easy thing to do. And hopefully today you'll just get a little bit of comfort knowing that other people go through a very similar experience to you. Talking about it, no one can really sort of tell you this is the right way to do it, this is the wrong way to do it. There is no right and wrong in this. Everybody deals with it differently. All I can really do is sort of give you my experience on how I handled it and my choices and why I made those choices. And hopefully it'll give you a little bit of insight as to why some decisions can be made some ways and others another way. Because it really is just about what is best for you. You know, you're the one going through this journey. You're the one that has to deal with this emotionally and physically and mentally. So whatever choices you make on how to tell your family and friends, they're your choices. No one can tell you that they're right or wrong. So as I've mentioned in previous videos, I was diagnosed back in January 2016. I was actually told I had a tumour on January the 11th. I was told in a phone call. And yes, that's an awful way to find out, and we will be handling how people are told about having their brain tumours in a later episode. So we won't dwell on that subject too much today. I was told by phone, and to be honest, it took me pretty much most of the day to kind of just let the news itself sink in. What I did do was get an emergency appointment with my GP and go and see her, just so that I'd got somebody to talk to about my initial feelings. It was also to find out if she'd had anything through yet, if she knew any further information. Because obviously, like most of you, all I was told was that they'd found a mass on my MRI, that they couldn't be 100% sure what type of mass that it was at this stage, but that they were urgently referring me to a neurosurgeon at my nearest specialist hospital, and that if I hadn't heard from them in a few weeks, that I should get back in touch with the neurologist and that they would chase the appointment up for me. Now, I know this is sort of the process that most of you go through. You'll find out that you have a tumour or a mass or some kind of growth from an MRI, and then you will be referred to whichever specialist that they feel is best for you. In my case, it was straight to a neurosurgeon. And I think for most of us, it is that way, because it's the neurosurgeon that then sort of looks and decides what kind of tumour it looks like, and then what kind of treatment they need to look into for going forward. So when I spoke to my GP, it kind of helped to know that it was real, because she had received an email from my neurologist sort of just saying more or less what I'd been told on the phone, that there was a mass and that they were referring me. That kind of made it feel a bit more real, because I think when you're told in a phone call, you have nothing in writing to look at. You have nothing to look at. And for the first few hours, I kind of was like, was that phone call real? Did it actually happen, or was I imagining the whole thing? And it did take quite a while for that to sink in. Once that had sunk in, my next thoughts were, well, what am I supposed to do now? Who do I tell? How do I tell them? And exactly what am I supposed to tell them at this stage? If I only have this amount of information, how fair is it to make them worry alongside with me when at this stage I feel like I don't really know anything at all? So I sat and I had a long think about it, and I decided that actually the only person that I felt it was right to tell now was my best friend. Other people, it may be different. You may feel that you want to tell your mum or your dad or, you know, another relative that you have a close relationship with. I think had my family lived closer to me, then I might have made a different decision. But my family actually lives in another county, about 150 miles up north. So I also didn't think that it was the kind of news that you would really want to give over the telephone when you're telling your family. So that left me with my best friend. It was obviously quite a shock for her. I just told her literally what I'd been told. There was no other way around that, really. And she came over, we had a bit of a chat. She tried to be very positive, you know, let's not panic about this. This could still be nothing at this stage. And I agreed with her. It was just a very difficult process to have to go through. One of the other things my GP had mentioned was that actually now they knew that there might be something there, that I might be at risk at home. What she meant by that was that I might be at risk of having a seizure. She felt that it was important that somebody at home knew that there was a risk of that, so that if they did find me in the middle of a seizure or something wasn't quite right, that person knew to tell the ambulance when it was called what was actually happening with this mass that they'd found in my brain. Unfortunately for me, the only person at home was my son. Being a single parent, he was the only one that I could tell. And that was a horrible thought, to have to tell my child. And I will state, although I call him my child, he's 20 years old. He's pretty much a grown-up now. Still, he's my child. Those of you that are parents out there will understand exactly what I'm talking about. But I knew, for safety reasons, I understood exactly what my GP was saying, and that yes, I was going to have to tell him. And pretty much soon. So I don't think I told him that day. I think I waited a few more days just because it was still sinking in, and I think I was kind of hoping I would hear something from the neurosurgeon really quickly and that I wouldn't have to wait too long to get further information. But obviously I quickly realised this is the NHS and that really wasn't going to happen. So I needed to woman up and sit down and have the conversation with him. And I can't tell you how awful it is. I think no matter what age your child is or your family are, sitting and having to tell them that you have a mass and they don't know what it is at this stage is not easy. It really isn't. And nothing is ever going to change that. It's always going to be difficult. But I decided to stick to the basics. I didn't want him to worry unnecessarily, but I knew I needed to tell him something. I decided to just keep it to exactly what I'd been told, more or less. I told him that they'd found a mass on the MRI, that they didn't know what it was, so it could still be absolutely nothing at all to worry about. But that, you know, if anything strange happened or I became very unwell and an ambulance needed to be called, that he should tell the paramedics that a mass had been found and that we were in the process of investigating it. I won't tell you how upset he was. I don't think I need to tell you how upset he was. He handled it surprisingly well. Whether it was because he was older or because he was a boy, let's face it, there are always differences. I don't know. But I think maybe he wanted to sort of be strong for me to a degree. So that was that, really. There was nothing else I could really say to him other than to keep reassuring him that at this stage we didn't know anything and that we would have to wait to find out. But that hopefully it was just a blur and it was nothing to worry about. I then sat back and had the arduous journey of waiting for the neurosurgeon's appointment to come through. And it did come through a week or so later, for 5 weeks later. And that was hard. And I did actually make a phone call to my neurologist or the secretary and sort of say, you know, look, they've made it for 5 weeks later. You said it was urgent. I'm kind of like really stressed out, worrying about what it is and what to tell my family. 5 weeks is a long time to not tell anyone. 5 weeks is an eternity when you're waiting to find out if there is really something wrong with you or not. I had that discussion over the 5 week mark, and she sort of got in touch with them and basically turned around and got back to me and said that he's had a look at the scan. He thinks that 5 weeks isn't going to be an issue. I just needed to be patient and wait. And unfortunately, at that sort of stage, with everything that's going on, you kind of feel like you have to do as you're told. So I did. But that was really difficult. Anyway, I had my appointment and I was told that it was on my frontal lobe, that it was definitely a tumour, that it was growing towards my optic nerve, and their recommendation was for it to be removed as soon as possible before it got too tangled in my optic nerves and I started to lose vision in my eye. You don't really feel like you have much of a choice at that stage. If that's their recommendation and they're the experts, then that's what you go through. Luckily, my best friend was with me. I had support from her at least. Yeah, we got through it. But obviously, as I mentioned earlier, with my family living so far away, I knew this wasn't something that I could just call them up and tell them about. You know, this needed to be done in person, and this meant arranging a trip. Now, obviously, some of you are already aware, you're not allowed to drive once you are diagnosed with any kind of tumour on your brain or an aneurysm and a lot of other things like that. Your driving licence is gone. Luckily for me, that's not an issue because I don't drive. But I did just want to warn anyone here that is newly diagnosed or is perhaps in the start of their journey and aren't sure of things. So if you're one of those people, please get in touch with someone who will know about these things. So one of the bigger brain tumour charities, or go and see your GP, or call up your neurologist. You know, just make sure that you are safe to drive before you get in a car and start driving long journeys to go and tell your family. But there was one other person that needed to be told, I felt, before I told the rest of my family, and that was my eldest son. Obviously, as soon as I said to him, because he lives away from home, he's finished university, he's got his own life, a job, a girlfriend. As soon as I asked him to come and visit me, obviously he knew something was wrong. He's not stupid, you know. No one is. When you're suddenly asked to visit out of nowhere by your mom or your dad or anyone, then you instantly worry that there's something going on. So I tried to sort of like play it down and said, you know, look, I just need to have a conversation with you about things that are happening at the moment. You know, can you get home as soon as possible? I know you've got work, but, you know, if you just come down like for the weekend, you know, and that would be really great. So he came down and I got my other son together with him so that I could tell them both together what the neurosurgeon had said and what the plan was. And yeah, watched as my two boys tried very hard to keep it together and be brave for their mum. But we got through it. They were great. And he asked a lot of questions, some of which I luckily was able to answer, and those that I couldn't, I said I couldn't, and we researched them online and found out that way. That was that really with my children. But then it was time to arrange a visit home. I booked my coach, asked my mum if she could get some time off work, same with my brother, made the very long journey up home. I thought going by coach would give me more time to think rather than the train, because I think you still can't decide what exactly is the best way to phrase it, what words are best to use. It's tough to decide that. It made absolutely no difference at all, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And I waited till it was a normal day. We were round having dinner. We'd just eaten and everyone was sat together and we're just talking in general. And it was kind of one of those now or never moments. So my eldest niece was there, who was only 12 at the time. So I spoke to her quietly and asked if she could go upstairs and give the adults some time to talk. The other children were far too young to understand anything we were saying, so it wasn't really important that they were there or not. I tried to be as stoic, I probably is the word, as possible. I felt if I got upset, they'd get upset and worry more, so I tried to be strong, and I just told them what the neurosurgeon had said, that it was a tumour, it was growing towards my optic nerves, and they wanted it out as soon as possible. Obviously, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for me to tell. It wasn't easy for them to hear. It was just one of those things that had to be done. So again, there was a lot of questions, some of which I could answer again and some I couldn't. They were very concerned that I would be having the surgery so far away. But I told them what I'd been told, which is that I would only be in hospital for a few days if I did really well. And then I would be back home and able to call them, and it was difficult. I mean, the other thing you need to tackle even before you get there then is, once your family is told, who else are you supposed to tell? You're supposed to tell people at work. How close a friend do people have to be for you to feel you need to tell them? Now, I was doing some voluntary work at the time, so I felt that my boss there needed to know, because it would mean that sort of once I had the surgery, I would have to stop my voluntary work for a while I recovered. And then it was about which friends did I feel close enough to have to tell. And all I can say really about that is that it doesn't get any easier. You'd think once you've told your family, once you've told your children, that that's the hardest part. You know, that's the worst to go through. But actually, every time you have to tell someone, you're reliving it again. You're having to go through all the details. And you'd think that, you know, you'd get used to it. But you don't. You never get used to it. I guess I really want to say, you know, you feel better once everyone's told, but there's always someone that suddenly brings it up in a conversation in front of someone that you haven't told. And then you find yourself having to explain again. It never gets any easier. It's why it's so important that once you have told your family and your friends, that you go back to them. When you have a difficult time, go back and talk to them and say, oh, I had to tell so-and-so today, or so-and-so didn't handle it very well, it wasn't very pleasant. They're your friends, they're your family, they want to support you. So let them support you. I know it's difficult because you feel you've already put this huge burden on them, and then all of a sudden you're going back and asking them to relive it with you. But that's what family's for. That's what your best friends are for, to support you through this process. And there are other people out there if you feel you don't want to burden them. And I will be talking about that in our next episode a lot, but I will just sort of touch on it now because I feel it's really important. I don't know if you've noticed, but at the end of every video that we've posted, there is a list of charities underneath in the comments. And on our website, there is a page called Help and Support, and all the charities are listed there as well. Now, I have spoken to each of these charities personally, found out what they offer, made sure that they're suitable for this sort of thing. Some of them have helplines, which I've found have been really useful for this sort of thing. You don't need to give them loads of information about the type of tumour you got, or what grade it is, or how long you've been diagnosed, or anything like that. You can just call them up and say, I need a chat. I've just had to tell so-and-so, or just been told this myself. And they'll listen. They'll listen, because sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger than it is to talk to your own family. And that's what they're there for, to help you. All you need to really remember is that this is your choice about everything. Who you tell, how you tell them, when you tell them. It is entirely your choice. This is your journey that you're on, and really they're kind of just along for the ride. You're the one that has to go through it all. So just make sure that any decision that you make is the right one for yourself. As long as you're happy with that, that's all that matters. Because really you have other things that you need to concentrate on, like getting better. And that's far more important. That's it for this week. It's been a much longer episode. I think talking about personal journeys and that, and emotions and all of that sort of thing, they're always going to be slightly longer. Now we come to our mystery spot, and this week I'm going to talk to you about two very talented ladies, Hilly and Hannah Hindi. These ladies run a parody channel. They raise money from their fans, then they do parodies of films and TV shows in song form. I know that sounds very weird, but it works really incredibly well. They've done everything from Doctor Who to Harry Potter, the Suicide Squad. They've done so many things, and sometimes they're really lucky, like in the case of Supernatural, and they actually got the cast members to join in. It was amazing. They did a Taylor Swift song. Really wasn't sure when I heard about the song they were going to do, but it is hilariously funny. Even now, I will still go back and watch it because I know it's something that will make me laugh, de-stress me a little bit. So, as usual, the link will be in the comments below. They're called the Hillywood Show. Definitely worth you checking out. Right, so that's the end of the episode. We will see you next week. Don't forget, we're changing our day to Monday. I really, really hope that you will join us. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.